Mhm.
got some words to look at if I need to.
Okay, so the recording is started. So why don't you do some sort of
I
introduction
will.
here?
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's morning here in the Pacific North, not Northwest. I'm not Northwest anymore. But today is July 11th, 2018, and I'm excited about doing this special interview with a very special person, Andrea Hylen. And I'm going blank now. So, and Andrea and I, we met many years ago. I forgot how many years ago it was. We took a training, a year-long training, to become personal coaches, life coaches, and that's how we met. And then after that, I kind of went in the direction. My reason for taking the coaching was so that I could help people with creativity, help them unblock themselves, and help them, ignite that passion back into their lives. And Andrea, her way of taking the training went into helping women write out their stories and write from and learn how to express those feelings, right, that are sometimes deep inside of us, right? And so I am just so excited to be here with her. And good morning, and how are you? How are you doing?
I am fabulous. I'm in Seattle this summer.
Oh, you are?
I'm
Oh, my old hometown area.
I know, and I realized that you didn't know that. So I'm house sitting in the Montlake area, and so every day I walk the dogs in the arboretum. I mean, talk about an artist date every day.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's just really beautiful. So I'm in one of the offices in the house. It's a husband and wife, and they have two offices. And so depending on my creative mood, I
decide which one it is.
Right. Yes. And the Wi-Fi is a little bit stronger in this room too. So that was the other reason for choosing it. And I just want to say also, I'm so excited that, if we want to talk about creativity as two different things. One is that an ongoing practice of creativity. And so that could be, it's funny, I just pulled out my little doodle book that I'm doing this summer that has my little doodle. And
what a great idea.
And so it's like, but I mean, another doodle, and I don't consider myself the kind of artist that draws things, but there is an expression for me that wants to come forth. And, one day I saw a question Karen Channing had posted, said, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Doodle it in the simple way a child would. And I drew these silly little balloons with the word free. And so having, to me, creativity is a place where we're always nurturing that part of ourselves. And it can be a little 5-minute activity that could even be taking a blank piece of paper and just drawing color on it, like feeding yourself. So I want to say that is a practice for me. And typically my creative expression is through writing. And so I almost always have a writing project going on. But when I don't, I do things like I'll just journal a page. And it might just be like, I'm full of fear today. I don't know where the fear is coming from, but I woke up with fear. So I'm just going to say, hello, fear. And, and it's just like, just those kinds of words. And to me, when you feed that creative part of yourself on a daily basis for a few minutes, or even taking a walk where you just like, breathe in the color of a flower that you see as you're passing. But that begins to cultivate your intuition and your creative self and your infinite possibility thinking and all. And then that is what leads you to other things, which one of the things was you starting the group.
I know.
That was an
surprise. I know. Right. Can you give a little bit of background to everybody of how you started, what ignited inside of you, to get your creative passion for writing going?
Well, if we go all the way back to childhood, I can tell you it was one of the ways that I just dealt with life, and that I grew up in kind of a traditional household, but there was a lot of alcoholism and codependency and unspoken things, and I felt everything. And so I was always someone who would do things like make plays and costumes out of toilet paper or anything, everyday items. I was always interested in writing and reading. I loved to read books about how people kind of navigated life, even if it, or even if it was like B is for Betsy, and she shows how she's scared going to school, but she finds friends on the way. You know, it's like those things. And then knitting. I was really big on knitting, and I loved television and film. Sometimes we talk about kids sitting in front of a television and zoning out. Well, it was never like that for me. It was always like looking at the costumes or the scenery or how people told a story, or, just always fascinated by that as a medium. And so my adult life, I've always been a journal writer, and I've always loved doing simple art projects that were like collage type things with magazines, and maybe you'd say vision boards or soul collage or something, but it was just putting words and colors and feeling the tactileness of creating.
Oh my God, you speak my heart.
But Heal My Voice really, the organization that I started in January 2011 really came out of loss and grief. It came out of, I lost my brother when I was 4 years old. He died of SIDS, and I was the one who found him in the crib.
Oh my gosh.
Tried to make sense out of, well, where'd he go? What happened? And nobody talking about it. I lost a son who died at 19 months. He had a congenital heart defect and then died from cancer. And then my husband died in 2005, went from being a very healthy person to getting cancer and died 10 months later. And it was from those three significant deaths of three men in my life that I just really went into an even deeper process about how, feeling the feelings and what do you do with all of these feelings. And I did it through writing and through meditation. And there came a point where my nephew, who was an adult, said to me, you do all of this writing, and you're writing on Facebook because social media during this time was starting to boom. But he said, why don't you take all of these things that you're doing and all of this passion that you have and start a nonprofit? And so I just started asking, well, what would that be? And I started taking walks. And one day I heard the words, Heal My Voice. And as soon as I heard those words, there was something in me that just tears sprang to my eyes. I was like, Heal My Voice. And all of a sudden I felt and kind of had like this rapid connectivity feeling of remembering people in my life who had had loss or trauma or grief of some sort, or even just been told to shut up, that their voices weren't welcome at the table because they were a woman or because they were too young or they were too old or whatever that was. And I felt how there was all of this power in the world that women had tied up in these old stories. Yes. And that if we could process those stories and write them and really learn about them, that we would then have access to that power and we could use it in leadership in our lives, whether it was in the care of the self, the family, the community, the business, or the world. Each one of those is important. And, I think we all know people who may feel like they have a voice in their business, but they don't have a voice in a relationship, personal relationship, or the opposite. They feel like they've got a really strong family unit, but they don't know how to get their voice out in the community. And so I just saw that was a way. So that was really the motivating force for me, was I wanted women to reconnect with that personal power. And so I created a 9-month program. We spent 5 to 6 months on one story, like just going in and in and in until we could find the power in that story. And then we did radio and social media. So there you go.
I just honor your courage to go forward with that, you know, and I think it takes, especially women, it takes a lot of courage to step out there and follow that. For me, it's in my heart is where I feel all that passion. It sounds like that's where you feel it too.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm always curious too as to, I've had a lifetime of thinking about the creative process, and is my process the same as yours, or a dancer or a singer or something like that, or any kind of creativity? Maybe I'll write about it sometime and interview people on just that.
Yeah.
So can you give any kind of inspiration as far as, are you just naturally courageous, or what did you go through?
I think that there's just something inside that is, there is I know we all have had this happen where we have an inspiration about something, or we feel a compelling push or pull.
And both.
Right,
Yeah.
that if we, I know this sounds dramatic, but to me, sometimes it feels like I will die if I don't do this thing. Like,
yes, exactly. That's the way I feel too. Yes. I get all teared up and everything. It's like, I have to do it. I don't know why, I have to do it. It's the same for you.
I feel like that's where the inspiration comes from, is like, I have to do this or I will die. And that, I mean, it's funny because even saying the words heal my voice and remembering that moment where I heard it, I mean, I get tears in my eyes because I just felt it so much. Like, I have to do this. I have to do something here. And so instead of us trying to figure out, oh, well, the market is calling for blah, blah, blah thing, that it isn't that. I mean, it's an important thing to understand a big picture of life. Like, okay, I've got this, but I need to put it into some structure, and I need to learn to communicate about it. You know, that's part of that's part of bringing things forward in the world. Or you have a lot of writing and you want to put it in a book. Well, there are steps you have to take to do that, and you have to kind of think it through in your head and your heart and all of that. But there's that thing that you long for, that thing that you feel like, I have to speak about this, or I have to talk about this. And then the next steps to me are, one is getting some support. So I have a book that's coming out on July 22nd. And when I first got the idea for what the book cover was going to be, it was just a picture I had taken randomly of a heart on the sidewalk, and the way the sun was shining, my shadow was right next to the heart. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, because my book is called Heal My Voice, An Evolutionary Woman's Journey. And I was like, it's the journey of the heart and the shadow. So, you know, there it was. But then there was this feeling of vulnerability, like, oh my gosh, is that actually am I making the right choice? Is that really the cover? So I sent it to my 3 adult daughters, who they're not going to say to me, they're not going to be people pleasing to me. They will all tell me the truth of what they see. And one of them immediately said, I love it. Well, that gave me a little bit of confidence around, you know, so it was like, okay, feels not so vulnerable. Then I shared it a few weeks later with the graphic designer who's done my book covers. And she came back with, I love it. And, you know, and it'll work for a cover. And so finding some places where you feel that support, where you can get a little high five, you can get a little, because not everyone is going to like it. There are going to be people who come back and will literally say to me, why did you pick that cover? Or, oh, wow, your shadow looks so fat in that picture. Or, you know, they will say stuff. People say stuff, and it's really crazy what they'll say to you. So if you have a few places where you feel like I really love it and somebody else really loved it, then that's enough. That's enough to do that.
Right.
And then the other thing is that create a structure. I feel like we need empty space so that the inspiration can come in. But then we also need a structure on either working on it on a regular basis or like I got to a point with this book where I knew I knew what it would take to finish it because I've done so many books before. So, but there was a point where I was like, all right, I'll just start making a deadline, but I'm not going to tell anyone what it is. And it's actually coming out a month later than I had originally planned, but it all made sense why that happened and all. And so I have a daily structure. Now I have 11 days to finish a few more things with it. And so it's like every day I've got a structure. So I would say follow the inspiration, create space for emptiness, get some support, and create a structure. Those are the things.
Do you feel like having that time thing actually increases your creativity, or does it kind of squelch it a little bit?
Having the, well, I mean, I would just, let's just think about it for you, because you've had deadlines where you've had art shows and you've had things that you were going to sell, and you had certain times, even if it's a holiday that's coming up, you want to make sure you have some art available for purchase or whatever. There's a point where I don't know that it's creativity. I think it's like, it's just time to finish it. It is time to get shit done, you know? It's like,
get over any fear of it, right? Of that pressure or anything.
But here's the funny thing. When I finish this project, I have a novel that I'm going to write. I've never written a novel, but it's been bubbling to do it. It's based on a true story about something that happened in my life. And I have 3 chapters I've written over the last few years. I wrote them as blog posts, but I realized they were chapters in this book. And so while I'm in this kind of constriction around deadline to finish the one book, and I have a little bit more creating. So I do every day go, okay, just go take a walk away from all of this and come back and just keep plugging away, even if it's a few sentences at a time. But what's happening is that I saw you post something about the shower. What's been happening is that every time I take a shower, I get an idea for the novel.
Oh, that's great.
So I have a place where I've been like, oh yeah, remember that thing that happened in San Francisco and da-da-da-da. So I write a few lines, and then I do this little thing where I'll be like, thank you for the inspiration. I will come back to write more when I finish this other project. Like, please
that's great intent. I like that. That's good.
Please keep giving me the inspiration. I love it, but I have a deadline here to do. You know, because we all have life. We have
things we have to live, right? I find too, sometimes I think, I'll always remember this. You know, these ideas are I've had things to write about, and I don't consider myself a writer, but going, it's so profound. You know, I'll remember it later.
Yeah.
Don't. You know?
Write it down.
Write it down. I mean, how do you do that when you're in the shower? Do you have something to do?
I know. No, I start repeating it over and over again. But I have found myself with an inspiration and running through the house trying to find the pen and the paper.
You are such an inspiration. I just love it. It's so much fun to talk with you.
It's like being tuned in. Hey, I also want to acknowledge something that has been coming up in the group, because as we were talking about, life happens. I want to say that when we're talking about creativity and creating every day, I would say do it no matter what is happening in your life. And I want to acknowledge that I had an autoimmune condition for 2 years where it was all I could do to cook dinner every day and care for my little kids. And but there was always something I was doing that was creative during that time, even though that, I mean, I don't know that I would have, it helped me through that time and it helped me reconnect. And when I started Heal My Voice, because, and I want to say this because sometimes we place limitations on our life has to look a certain way, and then we can start doing these things. When I was starting Heal My Voice, it was during a time period where the housing crisis had hit our country. My husband had died. I had sold our house. That was all fine. But after I sold his business, it's a long story, but the short part of it is that someone who bought the property and the way we all set it up, he declared bankruptcy. And my entire life savings, everything that we had saved for, and I had no job at the time. All money was wiped out.
Oh my God.
So the month that I started Heal My Voice, I received the first eviction notice for my apartment. And for a year and a half, my daughter and I lived on the verge of eviction. And during that time, I started Heal My Voice. I wasn't making any money from that when I started it. And I started with very low prices for the projects as I was starting and trying this new thing out. But I just kept asking every day what was a way for me to make money. And creative ways came in, things even like social media was starting out. And there were people who I just knew more than other people knew. And so there were people who paid me to start their Facebook pages or, you know, just little things be like that. And then my daughter and I talked about going and living with a friend for free, but she wanted to stay where we were. So she used her babysitting money to pay our rent. And, you know, so it was like, they were hard times, but I felt such a calling to do Heal My Voice that I didn't let anything else stop me. And so I just want to say that I acknowledge that there are people who right now in the group have illnesses or who have some other financial challenges. And there was some of that, you know, that there was a lot going on. Maybe they're caring for an elderly parent or something. But it's like just follow the daily baby steps that you can take and continue to feed your voice. Right. So I just want to put that out there, because sometimes we look at someone and we go, oh, well, she had her whole life together to do this. No, I was on the verge of eviction for the first 18 months of Heal My Voice. Yeah.
Oh, that is such great advice. That's a lot of wisdom that you just imparted to everybody. And I really appreciate that. I think that's important, you know, and to me, the creative process is living that process each day. And it's hard sometimes to be in the moment doing that. It's hard because there's so much else going on in our lives. But how important it is to keep that going, that's what I want to do, is keep that fire going and help people keep that fire going inside themselves. Yes. That's what life's about. And if we let the creative process, you know, I mean, I can't imagine not having some creativity in our world, but it'd be a pretty bleak place to live without, you know, people that were willing to dive into their creative abilities. So very awesome. So let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing good. Okay. So did you want to answer any of the questions from the people in the group?
Sure, yeah, wherever you want to go.
I did not make a list of those questions that they had. So okay. I probably should. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can actually call it up and take a look at some of the. Oh, I know actually.
What?
Let me just do that. Again. I was thinking about talking, I know there was a thread of questions about marketing and, and the way to, so I'll just spontaneously talk about a few things that happened for me with Heal My Voice.
Okay.
First of all, I was involved with an organization called Evolutionary Women that friends of mine started in 2005. And one of the things that came out of that organization was a book project, and it was called Conscious Choices, an Evolutionary Woman's Guide. And that was the first time I actually wrote a story for a book. And I became just organically, I became the midwife of the book. And that was before Heal My Voice. That was 3 years before Heal My Voice. But when I had the inspiration for Heal My Voice, and I took what I'd learned in that other book project and started to add additional pieces onto it, I had the book, Conscious Choices, in physical form. And that gave me a level of credibility. And so sometimes what a book can do is create some credibility for you, because it's not just an idea that you had, but it was, it's an actual physical form to hand to someone. And it's, oh, you have a book. And so a lot of what Heal My Voice was, first of all, I've never really seen the books as being the thing that was going to make money. It was always either my coaching or social media or the 9-month programs. Heal My Voice is a nonprofit, so sometimes we would have an event that would generate money for a project that we were doing. But it, so the marketing of your book, it's the book can become like a business card for you. So I just want to say that as a marketing piece. Another thing is that when this book the book that I'm putting on Amazon on July 22nd, when that comes out, actually, okay, sorry about that little beep. It's gonna beep because I've got Facebook open to see if I can get any of the other questions. So I can't. Where is that notification beep? Anyway, here's what I'm going to do when I promote the book that I have coming out on July 22nd. I have an Instagram page.
Okay.
For Andrea Hylen, and I also have one for Heal My Voice. I'm going to be putting a quote from every one of the stories that I wrote in this book, the chapters from the book. I've decided to do a FaceTime Live every day. Now, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that, and I've done it before for 44 days, so I know that I have the capability to do this. So I think part of that is also deciding what's the expertise that I have, how much energy does it take to do something. So I already know some of these things for myself. So I'm deciding to do things. At another time, it might be that I do one FaceTime Live a week, that would be enough. But for this particular book, which it's like a celebration of my whole journey with Heal My Voice. So I want to put something out into the world that is like, I want to do it for me. Even if nobody buys the book, I want to do this for me. I want to put a quote on Instagram every day that's from one of the chapters. I'm going to, the dogs got excited about that out there. I'm going to do a FaceTime Live, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, because my book is really about, the first half is about stories throughout my life, like the gifts that I found during the birth and death of my son and things like that. So I just have this opportunity right now, and that's how I see it. I have an opportunity to share some wisdom, to share some experience, to give out into the world. Whoa, I just felt so much emotion about that. Okay, this is what it looks like to be turned on by your project. Where the tears just come so suddenly. So that's some of the marketing. Deciding what form to put the book in also. I was going to post an article that I found. I'll actually do it in the thread of questions that talk about what's the difference between Kindle, an ebook, or a PDF. So I have had programs on my website that I just put as a PDF, a download. That's what the study guides are, is a PDF. An ebook has a certain format to do. And then Kindle, you need some sort of Kindle or Cloud Reader or Nook or something to read it. But so and sometimes you will put the same thing. So the book that I have coming out, I'm going to put it on as a paperback book, and I'm going to put it as a Kindle book.
Okay.
And there may be a time where I decide to do it as an ebook or some sort of download on my website. So you don't have to just pick one thing. You can pick one thing to start with, but you can use the same material in a lot of different ways.
Uh-huh.
So even think about the way that I'm promoting the book is that everything that I've created, I'm then going to put it out in Instagram, and I'm going to connect that to my Twitter account, and I'm going to connect that to my Facebook account. So, but it'll only be one action. Put it on Instagram, you can actually click these boxes and it'll go in three different places.
Right.
So realizing it's not just one place you're putting it, but you're actually putting the same material in a lot of different places. And
with a little effort, not a lot of effort to it.
Right, exactly. Today, the recording that we're doing here, I'm going to upload to a YouTube. I'll send the file also to Catherine. She can put it on her YouTube. We can post it on Facebook. So you can see how one effort, how that ripple effect can go out into the world in different ways.
That also speaks to me as far as being in a community of like-minded people is so important, because we can support each other that way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. All right. I'm just opening this up to, so Abby, one of the questions that she asked was, how do creators best start out monetizing passions and what they love when they need money to just cover basic needs? Many healers, single moms, widows, seriously ill people with long-term conditions. Like, what are the best startup tips she was just talking about with that? So it's a big question with a lot of different things, but I would say number one is you have to have some sort of visibility. You know, you can't just create a book, have it printed by the printer and put it on your bookshelf. You know, it's like, so it's deciding how that's going to be. Now that can be a Facebook page. You could do a business page on Facebook, and there are stores that you can connect it to. From the very beginning, I chose a platform called Create Space that automatically uploads so I upload a Word file, and I've always hired someone to do the book cover for me. I usually send her a picture, but then she does the graphic for me, sends it to me. So I upload a graphic and the Word file, and then it automatically goes to the Amazon store. And now Create Space has created a thing where they automatically create your Kindle file. I've learned how to go in and do a little minor editing of it and for Kindle, and then that goes up there. So that's visibility immediately on those places. But then you have to let people know it's there, because how many millions of books are there on Amazon? And, you know, so you can have search words and you can have an author's page and stuff on Amazon, but you still have to do something. So it could be a website, it could be a blog, but you can start with something simple. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles of a you know, professional website. There are some easy things to do, actually, some easy sites for information. Do you have any thoughts about that? Creators best start. Oh, I know what else. Wait, let me just say one other thing about that. Is that a book is not going, you know, I mean, I've read authors, for instance, Melody Beattie wrote a book, I think it was called Codependent No More. And it was on the New York Times bestseller list. And I read an article or an interview with her after that book had become a bestseller. And she talked about how she had so little money at that point that she didn't get all of a sudden a ton of money from being on the New York Times bestseller list. She said they hardly had food in the refrigerator. So it's like, don't just depend on one thing to be the money maker. If you're a healer and that's your profession, then you could put a book or an ebook or something out there, but then it'll lead people to other services that you're offering. And it's letting people know what those services are. You know, are you a coach? Do you clean houses? I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, it can be really practical stuff. For me, it was people who needed social media advice. And I had just organically been learning it by being on Facebook and all.
I do feel too, you know, if you, excuse me, if you have your focus and your intent, you know, of where you want to go, that you can use other things, well, like babysitting or dog sitting, walking dogs, you know. I mean, I used to clean houses when we were struggling, you know, and I kept going in the studio and still doing my work,
Yep.
you know, between doing those things. There are ways that people can do many different things to bring little bits of income in, you know. And I used to feel like, well, maybe it divides us up too much, but I feel like if you hold your focus, right,
Yes.
of what your intent is, then that goes along with everything, right?
Yep. I wrote I've been writing a blog post for a site, Consciously Woman, that Adrienne Yeardye started. And one of the things that we were writing about was what our plans were for the summer. And so I made a list of my intentions for the summer. How did I want to use this time that I have at the house sitting? And, you know, so I made a list of that. But then I go back and I look at it every week. Am I on track? Have I become distracted? Is my intention, do I want to change it? You know, it's like, hey, this is your life. Design the things that you want, and then to be, I don't like to use the words realistic or practical very often, because my realism is infinite possibility. You know, that's what I really believe in. Sorry, dogs in the background. So I every once in a while just am like, hey guys, shush.
I thought we lost it every second. It was awfully quiet.
So, you know, I knew that I needed to come up with something for rent money at a time when I was building something I was really passionate about. So I did something every day with Heal My Voice. But I remember a very memorable day standing in an empty parking lot at the grocery store with my hands up to the heavens saying, what else do you want from me?
I know that one.
Follow my passion. You know,
where's that help I want? You know?
And all of a sudden I got a download of something to put in the newsletter and an idea for social media thing I could do, and I realized I didn't bring pen and paper, so I'm running back to the apartment. Hey, go back, and then I took action on those things. I took action, and then I tuned back into what else is there, and I did do some babysitting myself, and my daughter was babysitting and dog walking, and we did social media, and
you do what you have to do. Yeah. Exactly.
You're just going to do what you need to do to eat, you know,
yeah,
to survive
exactly.
and everything. And I had little pieces of part-time work that came to me. People knew things that I did. And, but I always held the vision of Heal My Voice. And
I'm also hearing you say that you're trusting the universe also.
Yes. Yes.
And that's important too, which is not always easy to do.
No.
You know,
that's why I threw up my hands to the heavens. I was
exactly. I've done that before you too.
You know,
lead me through this, please. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
What am I doing?
Yes, I have an interactive relationship with the universe.
Yes. Screaming sometimes. Yeah.
As well as thank you.
Yes, being very grateful is very important too. Yeah, it's awesome. I just so appreciate you. It's just, and yeah, back. It's just like fills my heart to be with you again.
That's great.
Yeah. So okay. Oh my gosh. So how are we doing? How?
I know.
You want to answer any questions?
We were thinking about 45 minutes, but I was just looking to.
Yeah.
see if there was another, because I know Abby wrote some great questions, and I'll just say also in the group, first of all, your group is called Inspired Creativity. It's on Facebook for anyone who's watching this who's not in the group.
Thank you. I didn't mention that.
Yeah, and so I will go into the thread and over the next few days answer any questions that we don't
Okay.
have. But you did ask about marketing. I think I answered a little bit of that. And let's just see if there was anything else. All right, I feel like we covered really what people were asking for right now, but I will go back in and put some links and
what I'd like to do is put in the file, you know, I mean, you can tell them your links for how to get in touch with you and everything too. Sure. Sign up for your newsletter, and that can be in the file also.
Yes.
I want a file separate just for you, for each person that we interview. You know,
oh, fantastic! That's fantastic.
So they can just go in. Okay, just want to find out about what she's doing and how to contact you. So we can work on that. So
yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it's a really rich place for anyone who's looking for inspired creativity to come and join.
And you're also another example of the creativity coming in other ways. It doesn't have to be in just one area.
Right.
And I find like for myself too, like especially if I'm stuck on something, I can't get through, you know, I have a block or something, going and doing something totally different. Yes. And then coming back and it's like opens up again, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of so you're a great inspiration for that too. So.
Well, and that just brought up something so much. I've been working on this book for a long time. Actually, this particular book that's coming out, you could say that it's been 61 years, which is how old I am. It's been 61 years in process, and I've been writing it in pieces for 10 years. But there came a point where I could really feel like it was ready. It was time to finish it. But I wasn't feeling like those, inspirational downloads or whatever. It was like, no, you have to go back in. You've got the meat of it, but this chapter needs to be rewritten or revised or something. And so I played a game with myself over a 3-day period where I said, okay, for the next 8 hours, you're going to write for 15 minutes each hour. So write for 15 minutes, then get up and walk away. Go do something else. Go do housework, go watch something on television, go make a phone call, anything, walk the dogs, do that. And then, so I just played a game. And so I just little by little chunked it down and finished the project. And I got into the flow with it also. So nice. Sometimes that's a way of.
That's great advice. Thank you. Yeah. That's really good advice. Yeah. Chunk it down. Yeah. It takes that overwhelming feeling away too when you do that, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming, all these things that you need to do to get your creativity out there.
And it's a way of just giving yourself space so that that's part of flow. Stephen Kotler has a whole video and has done studies on what it really means to be in flow, which is when we get that inspiration. You can call it being in the zone or downloads or
in the groove or
in the groove or something like that. But they've done studies on how there are actually 4 stages. The first one is more about research. It's more about, he calls it the struggle, but it's when you're kind of gathering ideas, or you might be reading books by other people or going and looking at art or playing with supplies, or nothing's really happening yet, but you're just kind of like playing with it in some way, or doing research. And then the second step is relaxation, where you just step away and let it work, all that stuff that you've been thinking about.
Incubation.
Right. Incubation. And then the third stage is when you get into the flow, where you're really in the zone. And the fourth stage is rest. It's like, now you've had that, because if you've ever had that, of course we've all had that, where you get the download and you're like, oh, it's flow, and you're in it, and well, then you need a break. You're tired from all that creating. You step away from it, and then we go through the cycle too.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good, great tips. Awesome. I hope everybody enjoys this.
I know we could go on and on. I just
exactly.
I want to say one thing. I'm no longer doing the 9-month programs because I was really inspired to do something else. We have 10 completed books that were written in Heal My Voice and Heal My Voice Sweden that are on the healmyvoice.org website and on Amazon. I'm putting a study guide up there for each of the books. Catherine has a story in this book, Empowered Voices, True Stories by Awakened Women. And I'm going to have the study guide for that one up. It'll be free on the website.
Wonderful.
But what I'm also doing, something that came out of the last Heal My Voice, and I haven't told you this, Catherine, but the last Heal My Voice project was Innovative Voices, True Stories by Women Awakening a New World. And during that, I started playing with something new, which is called the Writing Incubator. And so I do these Zoom writing labs for people who are I have a program that's, it's closed right now to the group and anyone new, but it's been summertime for people who want to write a book or have an idea to write something, but it hasn't come together, or they just need some inspiration to finish it. And the writing labs that we do on Zoom are really just like workshops where people come and they talk about their project, they get some support, they are witnessed in what they're doing. And then, so that's my new passion right now. I'm going to do another one in the fall, and that'll be on my website and everything. But yeah, I really, really love it. I really love helping people bring their project together, and some people will finish something this summer and others will they have like each of them, we've come up with 5 or 6 different projects they could do. So it's a matter of picking one and then continue to work on it until it's finished. Yeah.
Personally, just talking today with you, I'm just going to start to cry because I have a painting that I've been wanting to do for years and years and years, and I've put it off. And I'm going, maybe it's time I start working on that. I mean, I'm talking about a huge painting that, and I've given the excuse, I don't have studio space to do it in, right? But if the desire's there, I'll find a way to do it, and it's something that I want to do before I die, basically.
Yeah.
I've been talking before. I need to do it.
Yes.
Or I'll die. It's both, kind of things. So thank you. I appreciate that. It's time. Awesome.
Well, and that I want to say too that sometimes we have an inspiration that doesn't come into form for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then
it's about that time.
Yeah, but then there's this part where it's like you have to do it now. And so I love that you said, all right, so I don't have the studio space. I'll figure out what it is. And
even if I just have to use the dining table or something, or take it over, I'm talking about a piece that's like 12 feet by 12 feet or longer, bigger, But
oh, good. I'm so excited. I'm excited.
It'll happen. Yeah. But it's like, okay, why have I been so fearful about getting it started? I don't know. So thank you, because you've helped me today. Big time. Awesome.
Now you've got the whole group who's going to be.
I know. Okay, I can't wait to see what this sparks for other people.
I know. Exactly.
Bless you.
All right. Well, I feel complete. How about you?
I do too. Yes.
All right. Well,
perfect. The way
it is. Everyone who's listening, and create, inspire.
Right. Be alive with creativity. Oh, that's interesting. I should write that down. I know right now. I forget. Thank you again. Bless you. We love you.
All right. Love you too. I'm going to stop the recording now.